I am for me okay. I am a host of the stream. Welcome to our Instagram live series, the first one of this week. We have conversations about what's in the news, what we've been covering on the stream, and bring you, our Instagram live viewers, into that conversation. Today, something very unusual because normally we don't do hard news interviews on Instagram lives. They are usually quite informal, very chatty. We talk about what's in the news sometimes, but this particular conversation is going to be about what's been happening in Uganda post-election with one of the best-known opposition parties in Uganda and finding out what happened, what went on. So I'm going to bring in, I'm just waiting to make sure that he is with us, so hoping to have him very soon in the conversation. Just looking out for Joel Ssenyonyi. And Joel will be joining us to have this conversation. In the meantime, I'm going to let you know we're talking about Uganda. I can see Joel's just joined, just here. Hi, Joel. Just going to bring you into the conversation. Talk about Uganda and what's happening post the elections. You can tell my brain working there and my finger working. Sometimes my mouth stops talking when my brain is trying to work. Okay, all right. Joel, will you request to go live with me and then I can bring you into the conversation? That is what's going to help me do that because I see you and I'm just trying to bring you in. Let me just see if I can see you here. Aha, I've got you. Fantastic. Joel, a request. Joel is the spokesperson for the National Unity Platform in Uganda, the big opposition party, one of the big opposition parties in Uganda. There were elections, presidential elections on January the 14th, and then, it was really hard to get hold of anybody, really hard to talk to people other than in the main ruling party. Joel, hello. It's been a while since I spoke to you. It's just a few days before elections. If you were being very candid about what happened, how would you describe it to people in Uganda, people outside of Uganda? Because even talking to each other is difficult right now. You need a VPN, otherwise you can't do it. Just waiting for Joel to stop buffering. Hi, Joel. How would you describe what happened?
For me.
Hi.
All right.
Good to see you.
It's good to be here. I hope my audio and video is all good.
Yeah, we hear you. We see you.
All right. Thanks for having me. So yes, your first question was the situation, the post-election situation. Our presidential candidate, Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, Bobi Wine, is still under house arrest. The soldiers deployed around his house, some actually had to jump into the compound. He's in the house only with his wife. They can't let any of them get out. You know, the wife tried to get out recently to go to the garden and get some food. She was denied access. She was actually assaulted as she tried to do that. Our party headquarters in one of the Kampala suburbs called Kamocha is under military siege. It's surrounded by the military. None of us can be let in there, so our staff can't get in to do work. There's tension. You know, there's military deployed all over our streets. You would imagine Uganda is, Somalia or Central African Republic. It's as if we are at war. But clearly, all this showing that Mr. Museveni stole this election. You know, when we were young, sometimes we would steal sugar. Now, when you steal sugar and your parents walk into the room, you begin to quickly clean your mouth because there's something you've got to hide. So Mr. Museveni has got a lot to hide. That's why he's doing all the different things that he's doing.
It seems to me, Joel, as somebody who cares about what happens to my African brothers and sisters and for people who care deeply about rule of law and giving people a true voice, is that the lack of trust. So I wouldn't even know if you had won or if you had lost as an opposition party, because it's so difficult to work that out. And then why would the leader of your party and key members of your party be surrounded by forces, military, police during an election? So that just, the trust is not there. So maybe you didn't win. maybe you did win. How would you ever know?
I mean, I just gave you, that analogy. The things that Mr. Museveni is doing clearly show he has got something to hide, because if he had run a free and fair election, if he had won genuinely, like he's saying, he, for example, would not be arresting our agents who are carrying DR forms. Now, DR forms are declaration of results forms. What happens at every polling station, there is a tally. So there's results forms. Museveni, Kyagulanyi, Bobi Wine, and all the other presidential candidates, and it's indicated therein what each candidate got. And every candidate is entitled to one of those forms, and for that matter, the agents of my candidate. So they were given those DR forms. But because Mr. Museveni think on the other end, and transporting these DR forms to the city, a number of them have been arrested. The DR forms have been confiscated from them. Why are they being taken away? Because they know that those DR forms show the truth. So it is obvious, if we had not won, if Mr. Museveni had won genuinely, he would not be doing the things that he's doing. He would not be arresting,
My take on that is that maybe the fear of losing is like so afraid of losing that maybe those tactics are being used. They may not be necessary. Who knows? We won't know because of those tactics. Let me just bring in Nahum Tades and everybody. If you've got questions, it's going to be much easier for me to see your questions if you actually put them in the question box, because then I can see them very clearly and try and get as many of them to Joe as possible. Joe is the spokesperson for the National Unity Platform, one of the big opposition parties in Uganda. They believe, they are saying, many people are saying, that they had the election stolen. How do we hold African leaders accountable and have free and fair elections? I'm going to narrow that down. Uganda. Joe, go ahead.
How do you hold African leaders accountable? You see, many years ago, when Mr. Museveni had just gotten into power, he said that the problem of Africa is leaders who overstay in power. So one of the challenges we have is we have got big men as opposed to big institutions. Mm-hmm. And so the big men override the institutions. The Electoral Commission, fully appointed by Mr. Museveni, so they do everything at his behest. The judiciary, etc., etc. So he is preponderant as a figure over these institutions. They can't do otherwise. The police force, the military, and all of that, he has got them in his hands. So one, we need to do away with the big man syndrome. Number two, we need to return term limits in situations like us here in Uganda. Even where...
Yeah. Just bear with me. You can see that Joe is buffering here, and connecting with Uganda right now, very challenging. If you want to do it via social media, you need a VPN. So there are going to be times when Joel is in and he's out of the conversation. I'll get him back in as soon as possible. Joel, you're buffering right now. Hopefully we'll re-establish that connection. It'll be a strong connection. And if you need to jump out and jump right back into the conversation, that will give me, Joel, just jump right back into the conversation again. That will give me an opportunity to bring in some of your other questions while I'm just waiting for Joel to come back in. So Joel, I know you can see me. Just come back in. I'll pull you back into the conversation as soon as we can. So I'm talking to the spokesperson for the National Unity Platform, one of the big opposition parties in Uganda. Presidential elections, January the 14th. Some very strange things happened to the main players of the opposition party. Strange, i.e., they were surrounded by forces. They made it very difficult to communicate. Ugandans, how were you able to communicate for the last couple of days? With great difficulty, if at all. And so we're really unpacking, we're doing a debrief. What happened? How did it happen? What are the strategies next? If you feel that the election was not free and fair. I'm just looking for Joel again to come back into the conversation if you see him. Joel, just say that you'd like to be back in this conversation again. It's really hard. It's very difficult to do this. And we had to wait a few days to do it because connectivity, everybody, It is hard with Uganda. One of the other things I will do, though, because I know you're all here and you're looking forward to this conversation, is bring in some of your thoughts as well. So I can see you saying, hi, Joe. Joe, come back. Come back into the conversation. I was also a little bit worried about even telling people, promoting people that we were going to do this, because my issue was if people knew, maybe it'd be very difficult for Joe to connect because people know. Now, am I getting like this conspiracy theory? Am I thinking, oh, the government is going to be against this conversation as well? Perhaps. I'm seeing all of your conversation here. Kalungi Tracy, it's hard to have democracy if the key players are dictators. This is really difficult because where is the trust? I am always amazed. Joel is back here again. Let me just bring Joel back in. I'm always amazed at the fortitude and the stamina of voters in Uganda who continue to go to elections, continue to go to vote election after election after election. Joe, let's just pick up here. We were talking about accountability and how you get accountability for elections where leaders appear to be in there for the long haul. There was something I shared earlier on today, which was how long President Museveni had been in office compared to how long various different presidents had been in office in the United States. And some maybe had 1 term, some had 2 terms, but you were talking about term limits and how that could possibly help the situation that Uganda is in right now. Let's hopefully see if we can get Joel's conversation into this conversation, which would be great. I know if you're watching from Uganda, I know that you have the patience, because it is not easy. It's not easy to get the connectivity. Let me bring in some of your thoughts. How do we advocate for the persecution? Oh, no, this is above my pay grade, but I'm going to share it with you Instagram Live. Is how do we advocate for the persecution of Museveni for the silent genocide and the war crimes? That is extremely difficult allegation to make, bearing in mind the current situation where even opposition leaders are not able to freely move around. Let me just see what Bryven K says. United Nations and European Union, where are you? Come and help us. Museveni is killing our people because he is greedy for power. We voted for Bobi Wine. I hear you. I see you. Ugandans, I'm going to ask you, do you want outside people to come into your country? That's not even going to be possible, right? The only way they can come in as observers, we're in a pandemic right now. How do you ask for other people to help? Maybe the African Union, but even the African Union are very careful about what they say to various leaders. Kayabula, can anyone save Uganda from Museveni? Is this a hypothetical question? And anyone save Uganda from Museveni? Thank you for your conversation, everybody. It's supposed to be a conversation with the spokesperson for the National Unity Platform. I am trying to get a great connection so that Joel can talk to you and do the debrief with you. Joel, ideally, hopefully you're as close to your router as possible. Joe, I'm just going to say, Joel, go ahead. Keep talking.
All right, Femi. My apologies. The internet here is very problematic. We can only access through VPN, and even then it's tinkered with and so on. As you know, internet was shut down, the whole internet, throughout the election period until 2-3 days afterwards. So now internet was restored, but not social media. So to access Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, and all of that, we've got to use VPNs, which are also tinkered with, and it's very problematic. But anyhow, I see somebody asking a question. Can anyone save Uganda from?
Yeah.
What is the question again?
Yeah, you just take that one, because I almost thought that was such a giant question, and I'm wondering whether we just have to wait for nature to take its course. That sounds very ominous. What do you think? Your thoughts there, Joel? What do you do? What are your strategies now?
Going forward, well, you see, for us, it's we've got to keep pressing on. Femi, in Uganda, in a country like ours, where you have a dictator that's been around for 35 years, they're preponderant, they will switch off the internet at will, They'll lock up leaders of a party, you know, their opponents, hold them under house arrest, raid our party headquarters, arrest people. We've got hundreds of our supporters that are held behind bars. Many have been killed. Many have been maimed. It's tough. But you see, we have got to keep pressing on, you know. I keep taking examples of countries like South Africa. When South Africans were fighting against apartheid, it was tough. Apartheid was etched within their laws. But they said even though it's etched within our laws, it is wrong. It is inhuman for blacks to be treated the way they're being treated simply because they're black. And they kept fighting on. A day came and their efforts paid off. When I look at slave trade in the West and elsewhere, slave trade was etched within the laws. It was legally provided for. But the blacks kept saying, no, this ill treatment of blacks simply because they have a different skin color is wrong. They kept fighting on. They kept soldiering on. Using every means available, they used every legally provided for means until one day they achieved their freedom. So even for us, it is tough. You know, Mr. Museveni says, the army is mine, you know, so he uses it for whatever he wants. He has personalized the army, and he has said severally, not once, that the army belongs to me. So he will launch out that army to beat his opponents, to kill them, and that's what is happening here, all right? When you go to court, it's tough there too. So we are swimming against the tide. We are literally swimming in shark-infested waters, but we have got to keep swimming. We've got to get to the other end. So it's tough. I'll not sit here and pretend that you know, it's kumbaya, that all is well. But what really keeps us going is, one, knowing that the struggle we are involved in is the struggle for the betterment of our country. We are not lawbreakers, you know. We are not the corrupt. We know who the corrupt are that should be locked up. When they beat us up, when they arrest us, we know that they're arresting us simply because we want a better country. They're not arresting us because we are raping women. The people raping women are walking scot-free. The people stealing taxpayers' money are walking scot-free. The people grabbing poor people's land are walking scot-free. So we keep going because we know that what we are up to is the right cause. And eventually, it will pay off.
Because when we first started to speak, we had quite a challenging connection. So I want to just recap here. What do you believe happened on election day and the count afterwards, and what the election result truly is? I just want to hear that clarity. Who won?
Yeah, so you see, like I said, you know, the guilty run before they are chased. Mr. Museveni knows that in a free and fair contest, he stands no chance. He's been around for too long. He has let down people. He has killed many of our people. He has maimed a number of them. Hundreds of them are behind bars. Service delivery is so low in this country. Taxpayers' money is robbed year in, year out. So people are simply tired of him. And he knows that I've just got to force myself on the people. And that's what happened on election day. That's why the internet was shut down, you know, because they didn't want the world to see and observe what was going on. They told Ugandans, when you go to the polling station, don't pull out your phone. You can't record anything. Why? Because there was a lot to hide. And now videos are beginning to come out. The people that were able to record, you know, in a stealthy manner, clearly showing how pre-ticked ballot boxes were being stuffed. You know, I imagine you've chanced on these videos. They've been making rounds on social media that somebody goes to vote. No, it's not secret voting. They give you the ballot on the paper in a couple of places in this country. You've got to tick from there. There's a security operative there, a military man, who is watching over to make sure you tick Mr. Museveni right there in the open. Then you go and you dip your ballot paper. So there's a lot to hide. He clearly knows he did not win this election like he says he won. And that's why many of our agents were arrested. Some the night before, others were taken away from the polling station in Western Uganda, in Northern Uganda. Our challenge, of course, is that in our country, media attention is mostly in the central part of the country. That's where there's a lot of activity. And that's why little rigging happens within the central area. There's a lot of vigilance from the population, but two, there's a lot of media attention on the central part of the country. But when you go to the north, when you go to the west, a lot of things happen in the dark. No one ever gets to know. The agents will be picked up. Ballot boxes are being stuffed. There is a video that's been making rounds showing a police officer himself. He was given the ballot papers by one of the NRM operatives, and they began to push them in, several of them. There was no media, but somebody stealthily recorded this using their phone. And that's why they were saying, we don't want phones at polling stations. And I kept thinking, so why are you banning phones from being at polling stations? Do phones spread COVID-19? Because that's the excuse that they have been using all the while. But they were doing that because they had a lot to hide. So Mr. Museveni did not obviously win this election. And that's why he is stealing our DR forms because they show the truth that happened.
Mm-hmm. We'll just bring this to you. So people are sharing some of their experiences as well, Joe. Nevis Carey says some were told to vote only for the MPs. They were told that the president had already been voted for. Why would you believe that? Like that's like the biggest scam ever. This is deeply problematic.
But it happens in our country.
And it
does happen in this country.
It happens in a lot of countries around the world. And I'm even sitting in a country right now, right, where one of the favourite phrases for
there you are. So
have been "stop the steal." So do you know what? And every country, there's always a weakness. There's a possibility anywhere.
Well, ours is not just a weakness. Ours is. Yeah. It's actually not weaknesses, because you see, a weakness is just like a fault line, but this is a deliberate attempt for a small group of minorities to force themselves against the people. So you asked, what's the atmosphere here like? There's a very somber mood. People are very tensious. People are very angry. Mm-hmm. If Mr. Museveni had won this election genuinely, you know, there would be a sprout out of celebrations across the city, Kampala, capital city, across the country. You don't see that. You see people who are angry, people who are saying our victory was robbed. And you know, people are being pushed to the wall, and they keep thinking, what do we do? I see somebody, Akayabula, asking, can anyone save Uganda from Museveni? That's what people are asking. They're saying, how do we get rid of this man? We can't pick up guns and go to the bush and shed blood like he did. You know, we're a lot more civilized. We are in 2021, for heaven's sake. And so we are saying we're going to use the legally provided for means. I get calls, so many calls, numerous calls every day of people asking me, what are we going to do? What should we do for this government? What should we do for this man? So people are in state of disconsolateness, but their hope, their resolve is not broken.
So you haven't given up. I hear that loud and clear. Mubarak 9K, echoing those calls that you've been getting. Now that Museveni has refused to publicly make the elections results available, what is the NUP doing about it? What are you able to do about that?
So we've been having interesting debates. There's people that have been telling us, please petition court. So after an election, any candidate can choose to petition court and say there were irregularities, there was vote rigging, intimidation, and all these different things, with the hope that the Supreme Court of the land can nullify the election. Some people have told us, yes, you know, go to court, at least to expose. We know that you won't get a win. They will not nullify Mr. Museveni's election, but at least he will get exposed. You know, the reality will come out. All this evidence will be brought out to show that clearly there was a lot of rigging that happened. But then there are others saying, wait a minute, we know how it will end in court. You will go to court. These courts that belong to Mr. Museveni, just like the Electoral Commission, would never nullify his election. So it's going to be a waste of time and energies. But also, it gets to legitimize Mr. Museveni. The narrative then gets to be, look, the man beat you in an election, you took him to court, and court confirmed him the winner. And so we are having discussions as a party. One thing for sure is that we are law-abiding. You know, we are not like Mr. Museveni. Mr. Museveni got into power illegally. He killed people. He shed blood. Hundreds of thousands of people died, you know, as he used the barrel of the gun to get into power. We are saying we don't want that. Our country, Femi, has not seen a peaceful transfer of power. Never. It's never happened since independence, you know. And, you know, we used to blame the white man who came and messed us up. And, they goofed up a lot. But, you see, it's been a black man changing power to another through shedding of blood. We've never seen that. We're hoping that it eventually gets to happen. So, yes, we are looking at a couple of options. One of the things that we are asking of the international community is we would like the international community to hold Uganda accountable. And, you know, whenever we do this, whenever we talk this way, Mr. Museveni says, so these Chagulanyis, the Bobi Wine, the Ssenyonyi, they're calling on the white man to come and rule us here. We're saying, no, for heaven's sake, I'm not a white man. Bobi Wine is not a white man. He's the one seeking to be president of Uganda, not a white man. But we are saying Uganda is part of the international community. So Mr. Museveni should not go on a killing spree, you know, in a manner so wanton, and it's okay because we are a sovereign state. No, the international community should keep its eye on Uganda. And I give examples. Uganda as a country, we have, you know, we are in South Sudan, We are in Central African Republic. Why are we there? Are those not sovereign states? They are sovereign states, but because we should keep them accountable, peer-to-peer review and accountability and all of that. And so we are asking the international community to do that. So Mr. Museveni should stop freaking out the international community and saying, mind your business, let's handle our own issues. What he's saying is, leave me alone to kill Ugandans, be quiet, shut up. No, that shouldn't happen.
Do you think international community, whoever they are, they're scared of Museveni?
I think they are, a good number of them. That's what it seems to be like. Some do speak out, but a good number of them are scared. So let's begin with Africa, because international community, it includes the African continent. Yeah. There's such a thing as the African Union. It's a body, an African body putting together all these countries. Many times they're silent about these ills.
Yeah, I'm trying not to make my eyes roll when you say African Union, because there are many leaders
They are quiet because majority of them are guilty of the same things that Mr. Museveni is doing. They are totalitarian in their countries. They are preponderant. They oppress the opposition. So they will not hold him accountable. They will not say a thing because they look at him as one of them, as their buddy. That's why they will be silent. Now let's broaden it. Let's go out of Africa, you know, and look at the rest of the international community, the West, the US. You know, they probably have got interests. They, for example, are happy that Mr. Museveni has deployed in Somalia, and so they keep thinking, let's not annoy him. You know, he will destabilize the region. You know, they look at him as this sacrosanct figure, this powerful figure within the East and Central African region. And so if they dare tell him anything, they will destabilize the region. Let's stop being afraid of a man that is causing mayhem, for heaven's sake. You know, I think he needs to be confronted. I think he needs to be told the truth by his peers, the international community. They need to care about what's happening in Uganda. You see, many years ago, with the genocide in Rwanda, the international community was silent. They said, you know what, deal with your own affairs. You know, we have our own affairs to take care of. Yep. But people were massacred. They woke up much later to realize we probably should have done something. Yeah. We probably should have spoken out a lot more than we did. So I hope the international community does not wake up one day to regret.
Yeah, I was just about to make a comment about Rwanda today, but I don't want to take us off topic. This is I Am Scanix. How far is H.E. Bobby with his loss? Is he on? I'm just trying to think mentally, you, NUP, Bobby, where are you in terms of being able to pick yourself up and keep going on? How's Bobby doing right now?
I spoke to Bobby a few hours ago. Nowadays, we can only communicate with him via phone. I'll tell you what. He is stronger than ever before. His resolve is stronger than ever before. Yes, they have stolen our election, the election of Ugandans. You know, he doesn't even say they've stolen my victory. He says they've stolen the victory of Ugandans because he has only one vote, all right? This was the victory belonging to Ugandans. But he's very resolute because, one, Mr. Museveni keeps exposing himself. And for us, we believe we continuously keep chipping away at this tree. Mr. Museveni and his 35-year-old dictatorship is like a huge tree that has fortified itself. You know, bringing it down, I'll be honest, is not easy. But you've got to get an axe and keep chipping away and keep hitting at it. And we believe we have continuously done that, and we continuously do that. And so he continues to encourage Ugandans, one, not to lose hope, because many people are in a state of despondency. They're very disappointed, and so they're thinking all hope is lost. But Bobi Wine says, let's keep strong, let's keep pressing on. You know, time is going to come. We just have got not to give up. Because you see, when you just might give up at a time when this tree is about to fall. So keep cutting away, keep chipping away, eventually it will fall. So that's the mode in which he is, you know. Yes, he's disturbed that he's being held under house arrest. He's disturbed that they're denying him, you know, anybody that tries to take food to him, they lock them out and so on. These things, yes, disturb him as an individual, but his resolve is strong. He knows that we are up to the right thing. He knows that if he was not doing the right thing, he would not be being treated this way. And so he knows this has got to be done, and somebody has got to do it, and he's happy to do it.
I'm getting notes here about a potential demonstration on Jan 26. Is that something that you would want to talk about publicly?
So January 26th is the day that Mr. Museveni celebrates what they call liberation. because that's the day he with Mr. Museveni with his fellow gun-wielding rebels, killers, I must say, took over power. And so they celebrate this every year. But yes, I have heard that many people are planning to demonstrate out there because people are angry, so they keep trying to find ways of making a statement. And so I've heard some of them say want to peacefully demonstrate, and that's provided for within the laws. It's not something that we have engineered, that we have started as the National Unity Platform Party, but these are Ugandans who are saying, you know what, let's take action, let's do something. We don't need to get an order from Bobi Wine or anybody else, and so that keeps happening. Unfortunately, of course, the state always meets them with brutality and so on. But people always, they try and self-lead, so to call it. I remind you, there's a time when Bobi Wine was arrested, and when he was in incarceration, protests broke out. He did call them out, because you see, each time there's a protest, even when it's peaceful, Mr. Museveni will say, now this Bobi Wine is getting people to protest and so on. That time he was behind bars. He did not place any order for people to protest, but they were saying, you know what, let's take action. And that's what Bobi Wine keeps telling them. He keeps saying, look, this is not about me as Bobi Wine. This is about all of us as a people. Everybody must play their part. Don't abandon this and relegate it to Bobi Wine, Ssenyonyi, and a few other leaders. Each one of us, because every Ugandan is oppressed, It's not just Bobi Wine that is oppressed. And then I'll be honest, he has made some money over the years as an artist and so on. And so one would even say, so there's somebody that said, but you see, Bobi Wine, you keep making noise and saying you're oppressed, but you see, when you're unwell, you can access good healthcare, you can pay for it, you take your children to good schools. And he said, yes, I'm lucky, I'm one of the few who was able to rise from the ghetto to get to where I am. But there's many other people that have not gotten to the place at which he is. And so they take personal responsibility and say, you know what, this is about me. I'm fighting for myself, not for Bobi Wine. Because when I go to hospital, there's no medicine for me. When I take my children to school, they're studying under trees. When it rains, there's no schooling, Many young people don't have a job. And so they're saying, you know what? This is not about Bobi Wine. It's about each and every Ugandan who is oppressed wherever they are.
This is such a tough conversation to have with you, because usually when you're doing a sort of election debrief, you want to sort of take into account, well, obviously there were some voters who voted for the ruling party, but it's impossible to know how much support President Museveni has, because so much of the election campaign and then election day and then post-election day, there was so much intimidation that it leads you to believe then they probably have something they're either afraid of as a ruling party, or maybe they didn't even win it. It just leaves doubt in the minds of people who are following this, reporting on this, and of course people who are living through this. A lot of people want to know what next. They're looking to you, to the National Unity Platform for leadership. What would you say to them as we wrap up this conversation?
So there's a saying in my local language here, I'll just translate it into English, that he who slaughters their own chicken can eat, and thereafter they throw the bones, because they have nothing to hide. No one will say, those bones look like they are for my chicken and so on. But you see, when you steal your neighbor's chicken, you're going to eat it very quietly, and afterwards you're going to hide the bones, because the neighbor is looking for their chicken. And if they know you didn't have any chicken, but now I see chicken bones all over your compound, you stole my chicken. And then that's what is happening. So whenever you have something to hide, you'll do it very quietly, very surreptitiously. Right? So Mr. Museveni knows that in a free and fair contest, he does not stand a chance. He knows that Ugandans are tired of him. He knows that Ugandans did not give him another mandate. If he did, just think about it. Because if I am Mr. Museveni, and I believe Ugandans have voted for me overwhelmingly, I will not have anything to hide. I will not deploy as heavily as I'm doing. I will not arrest my opponents and their agents and confiscate the DR forms. I would show Ugandans clearly, transparently that, look, this is what happened. Because that would help him too, such that there is no doubt whatsoever about his win. But you see, all the things that he's doing clearly show that there is a lot that he has got to hide. Remember the example I gave you of a little child that steals sugar? When mommy or daddy walks into the room, they begin to do this. They don't do, if they've not stolen any sugar, they'll be at ease and face mommy and daddy very bravely, So that's what is happening. Yes, you ask, it's difficult to know what kind of support Mr. Museveni has vis-a-vis the opposition. It is clear as daylight. Mr. Museveni robbed the victory of Ugandans. That's why he's doing everything in a very surreptitious and clandestine manner. the arrests, the deployments, and all of that, clearly it is to cover something. But make no mistake, Ugandans are very resilient people. They're extremely resilient. They supported Museveni into power, those that did, when he was shooting his way to power. They have a certain resolve on the inside of them. They don't give up easily, and so they'll keep soldiering on. And eventually we'll attain the freedom. So you ask, what's next for us? We are continuing with the struggle to attain freedom for our country. So I've had some people within Mr. Museveni's party, the ruling party, say, Bobi Wine and his party should be happy because they have made some gains. We have made some gains, in Parliament, we are the biggest opposition party. I am a member of Parliament elect myself. But you see, we cannot become complacent. We cannot get onto a celebratory party and say we have arrived. No, we haven't. Yes, I'm a member of Parliament, but you see, we still have this minority group that is preponderant over us, that wants to rule us for another 5 years, that wants to oppress us for another 5 years, that is going to deny people access to good health care for another 5 years, that is going to steal taxpayers' money for another 5 years, okay? So, yes, even for those that are celebrating, we are telling them, wait a minute, it's not yet Uhuru. We haven't gotten there yet. Yes, and look, I thank God that we have been able to do quite a lot in a very short time. It's just about 6 months ago that we unveiled this new party to the country and its new leadership. And so we had about 2 months to prepare for an election, get candidates across the country for MP, and then, of course, get our presidential candidates set and so on. So by all standards, we have been able to achieve milestones in so short a time because you're 2 months old really as a new leadership of this new party, and you are up against parties that have been around for a long time, entrenched and so on. So yes, I want to appreciate Ugandans for all that they have been able to do with us in this short time, but it's not Uhuru yet. We still have a lot to do to continue with the struggle to see that our country gets to be free, to see that our country gets leaders who are accountable. Femi, our leaders are not accountable. They do whatever they want to do, and it is okay. That's the problem. We need our people to get leaders who are accountable, leaders who are going to serve them. Mr. Museveni has said it not once, not twice, that he's not a servant of the people. He has said, I'm serving my family and my children. He said that, I think it was actually in an interview with Aljazeera. He said that I'm not the people, I'm serving my children and my grandchildren. He said that we need leaders who are going to serve the people. And so that war is not won yet. So yes, we win a couple of battles, parliament, local council, etc., but the bigger war is still on. And ours is a non-violent war. Ours is a legally provided for mechanism that we want to use to see that we attain freedom. So in the next couple of days, we are going to be unveiling to Ugandans what more we are going to do, what avenues, how we are going to move. But what's for sure is the struggle continues until ultimately our country gets to be free.
Joe, I've seen a lot of questions about election results. What about these results here? What about these results there? How are Ugandans going to get clarity on that information? Where does that information come from? Who's responsible to release that?
So, yes, like I said, that the Electoral Commission is mandated with conducting an election, hopefully a free and fair one. Obviously, they're goofing up on that, and then declare results. But then the process has got to be transparent. And that is why every candidate is entitled to DR forms, the declaration of results forms that show how each candidate performed at every polling station. So we have been gathering ours from the different parts of the country. And of course, the regime has been overdrive to arrest our people, confiscate those DR forms because they have a lot to hide. But we are finding ways around that to make sure we get these DR forms. And then ultimately, we're going to show Ugandans how they voted based on the original DR forms, as opposed to what the Electoral Commission was reading to us, because the EC chairperson was reading results from a computer, a screen. And people kept asking, where are you getting those results from? And there was no clear answer. The results ultimately are meant to be from every polling station, and those are meant to be reflected on a declaration of result forms. And so we are gathering those, and then we'll be letting Ugandans know how they performed. Because the regime has a lot to hide, that's why they're stealing these DR forms, arresting our people, torturing them and confiscating them and so on. But the struggle continues. Like I said, Femi, we are swimming against the tide, but we shall not stop swimming. You know, they can break our bones, but they will not break our spirits. They will not break our resolve. They will not break our motivation. We'll keep soldiering on. And look, now more than ever, it is etched on the inside of us. It is clear, clearer than ever before, that we've got to pursue leadership change. Otherwise, if we keep having the leaders that we have today for the next 5 years, many people are going to be killed, many more are going to be locked up, many more are going to be maimed, many more are going to suffer at the hands of this brutal dictatorship. And so we must do everything possible within the law to see that our regime and leadership gets to change.
Joe, you've inspired a lot of conversation between Ugandans right here on Instagram Live. It is after midnight in Kampala. I know how late it is, but I also know how precious it is for you to keep fighting so that when you have an election in Uganda, that you feel confident that when the results come out, that the person who got the most votes becomes president, the person who got the most votes becomes MP. And I am not confident that that is the case right now. And you absolutely are not confident that that is the case right now. Thank you for always being a friend of the stream. We really appreciate you making time very late at night. And Instagram Livers, thank you for your conversation, your concerns, sharing your stories, your experiences. The stream will stay on. It's not a story, it's your story, your situation, your politics. We will continue to follow your story on the stream, on all of our multiple platforms. But for now, I'm going to let you go to bed. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joel,
greetings from Uganda.
Instagram Livers.
Sure.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it.